There's so much risk for getting overwhelmed as a beginner because there's so much to learn, right? And a lot of times we can be very hard on ourselves because we have such big dreams, such big visions that it feels very difficult to attain. And so your biggest priority for yourself needs to be just one step further. Protect your creative energy so that you don't feel the need to say, this is too much, and throw your hands up and walk away. That should never be something that happens within your practice. Your practice should be full of hope, faith, love, and care for yourself. I've never ever studied music production in any way, and for much of my life, the magical world of Logic Pro and GarageBand were very intimidating to me. I felt like there was just way too much for me to learn. I am producing my own album all by myself, so it's been a huge learning curve. Today, I'm sharing with you some tips, tools, and tricks that I'm doing to make it happen. And so this video is for little Jen, or perhaps little ol' you if you are trying to record your own album with zero skills and no budget. Hardware-wise, I have Logic Pro. I did start with GarageBand. They're parallel pretty much. So if you work in GarageBand, you can use the same files in Logic Pro, which is very helpful. Just for reference, this is a song I made only in GarageBand.
Frustrated that I'm not dead to you and your manipulative touch, your virtues twisted up.
And this is a song that I made in Logic Pro.
No one here to hear me. Give space to speak.
As you can tell, the instrumentation sounds pretty similar. The only difference that I've really experienced is that Logic Pro has a little bit more keen ability to adjust up to the small details. And if you are just starting out, or if you're just a beginner, sometimes having all those small details in your face is kind of a hindrance, right? Because you'll feel intimidated by all those different options. So no shame about starting in GarageBand. The next one is I have my Scarlett Focusrite equipment. So that's just like a little pack that I got from, where was it now? Sam Ash, probably? Guitar Center, something like that. You also need an acoustic guitar perhaps, or whatever you're writing your songs on. For a lot of people that is guitar. I'm using the internal software instruments inside Logic Pro for synths and for different kinds of sounds. And as someone who doesn't have any of those like little pads or fancy things that you see in videos, it's a very user-friendly and nice way to be able to try to get more sounds out of your music and your songs. I also have my album list. So it's a physical list that I wrote down and pinned on the wall, the 3 different phases that I conceptualize whenever I think about finishing a song. So the first phase, cat hair and mouth, that's not the first phase. So after you have written the entire acoustic song and you like how it sounds acoustically, when it comes to production, the first phase is starting it. So that's basically just like having the file exist. Good job, you started it. And then the next phase is going to be the draft, or tracking, I think some people call it in the field. But it's essentially where you know where all the sections start and end. You know where all the instruments are going to enter and exit. And you have a clear idea of where those transitions are going to be. And you're no longer questioning or wondering or tinkering around with the arrangement of the song. So that's going to be the second phase of the finished song. The third phase is finishing up all the fine details. So what that looks like is you might have all the vocal tracks recorded, but maybe you need to fix some of the rhythm issues, or you need to fix some of the fine tuning, or maybe you need to fix the volume of certain sounds. Maybe you have an idea of the sound that you want to go there, but you don't, it's not quite working. So maybe you need to like look for a different similar sound that works a little bit better. That's sort of what I mean by finishing the song. It's essentially what takes a song from something like this.
Don't you know I'm in the fumes, I'm smoking vapor too self-involved, the constant back and forth is getting too much.
Into something like this.
Now don't you know I'm in the fumes, I'm smoking vapor too self-involved, the constant back and forth is getting too much.
Whenever I showed my partner both versions of these songs, he liked the first one because he's a very supportive person. But when I showed him the second version, he said that it's a lot better. And I was like, oh, like what about it's better? He's like, I don't know what it is, it's just better. And that's the good answer, because an untrained ear won't know what to look for. They'll just be able to tell, that sounds better. So that's sort of what I mean by the finished version of the song. Another huge tip I have for you for us songwriters just starting out is not to bombard yourself with so much information. I would go onto YouTube and try to find any videos and tutorials that I possibly could, and that was very detrimental because what it did was it just intimidated me further and proved to me that I don't know anything. Rather than looking at all these videos about different random things you can learn, because you could learn things forever. You could spend years just learning random stuff about Logic Pro or about production. A better avenue to take instead is to work on your specific song and then to ask yourself, what am I specifically trying to do here, and look up that specific tutorial and apply it immediately. Not only will it give you a boost of confidence, you're like, oh, I did it, but it'll also make your path to success so much more clear. For example, when I was working on producing this song, as I was working on it, I was like, man, I really wish I knew how background vocals worked. And so I Googled, how do you do background vocals? And then it showed me, here's where the EQ goes. And so I changed the EQ to whatever it said, and it immediately sounded better. And I was like, ooh, okay, cool. Another example is I was like, I don't even know what compression is. So what is compression? And I found this amazing video, all linked down below, that really helped me understand how to really start working with vocals in production. And when I applied that immediately, like, it gave me this sense of like, oh my gosh, I did it. The key here is to keep yourself moving forward, not getting stuck and overwhelmed, because there's so much risk for getting overwhelmed as a beginner because there's so much to learn, right? And a lot of times we can be very hard on ourselves because we have such big dreams, such big visions, that it feels very difficult to attain. And so your biggest priority for yourself needs to be just one step further, rather than I have to get all the way over there. It's I just need to take one more step and continue to do that every single day, because those steps will start to add up. Another tip I have is to decide your non-negotiables for your project. Some good non-negotiables for writing songs and producing songs is that everything should be on pitch. Everything should be on time. And as long as those two things are done, you're a star. Another non-negotiable that I have for myself is that I don't want to hear the struggle whenever I listen to my song. So what that means is if I put something into the production that starts to make the song suffer, that makes you go like, what's going on there in the background? I just take it out. Maybe it's an idea, maybe it could have worked if I had different skills or was farther along in my journey, but right now at this point in time it does not work, and so I'm going to take it out. I'd rather someone hear a cleaner version of the song to project their own ideas into about what else it could be, rather than insert my own unrealized ideas that detract them from hearing the core of the song. So ask yourself, what are your non-negotiables whenever you are creating your own projects? If you did this one thing, you're a star. Decide what gives you your gold star. The next one is to decide on deadlines for yourself. For me, this is I try to produce a song every week. Sometimes I fall a little bit behind, but I always sit down at least with that goal in mind. And when you have a deadline like that, it really puts into perspective all of this perfectionism that you might feel, where you're like, I need to make it better. You just need it done. Done is better than perfect. And as an artist, you're always going to be trying to do better and do more. And a lot of times that instinct to do more comes from a good place, but is detrimental to your practice. You really just need to sit down, do the work, move on, and then you will build the skills. Once it's done, you can always go back and improve it, but you have to keep moving forward. For me, at least, this has been what's the most important thing, because a few years ago I did try to produce my own music. I tried to produce these albums. I had these ideas in my head, but all of this overwhelm really got to me, and I stopped working on my music for like a year or two because it was just too much. And so now my priority is really longevity, and I think that should be the priority of any artist, is to protect your creative energy so that you don't feel the need to say this is too much and throw your hands up and walk away. That should never be something that happens within your practice. Your practice should be full of hope, faith, love, and care for yourself. You should be able to nurture it rather than beat it into being what you want it to be. Those are just a few things that really help me in my journey, so I'm wondering if they could be helpful to you too. Are you a little are you like me, a little songwriter trying to make their little songs happen in the world? If so, let me know in the comments what helps you in your practice. We're all just helping each other out here. I think that songwriting is a really beautiful and very human thing to do. I think more people write songs than anyone will ever know. Capitalism has a penchant for trying to say, unless you can do it stunningly well, don't show up as anything. I don't believe in that. I think that all art is meant to be shared, not stored or hidden away. Yeah, that'll be it for this day's video. I will see you next day.
But don't go, don't leave. I can be whoever you want me to be. I found this wound here. Someone cut into me so long ago. It hasn't yet healed over. Can't stop picking at it. And you, with all your wounds too, can't help but do the same.